John Jones loved the dark. He loved small places. He often said that caves felt like a secret room the earth kept just for those willing to look. To him, they were honest places. There were no bright, distracting lights. There were no complicated lies. It was just you, the ancient rock, and the truth of your own self. You met the stone. In its unyielding silence, you met a part of your own spirit. This was his passion, a quiet conversation with geology itself. On a bright Saturday in late spring, John drove with two of his friends. They packed ropes, helmets, small powerful lights, snacks, water. Caution was part of the craft. The map led to a narrow cave by a quiet ridge. A cool wind breathed from a modest hole that demanded humility. The cave path soon turned tight, forcing single file. The lights on their helmets became their only guides, beams dancing across the stone. Their voices were absorbed by the stone, deep, profound quiet. The path dropped away into a vertical pocket, a sheer descent. John, taking the lead, lowered himself with sure, steady movements. His friends followed. Their lights carved arcs in the void. The pocket opened into a still, hidden cathedral. Walls glistened with ancient moisture. Then their lights fell upon it, a narrow shaft that went straight down like a throat. The map promised a route beyond. John's spirit ignited, sure he could make it. He turned, steadied his nerves, and let gravity work, his light shrinking into the deep unknown. Halfway down the narrow shaft, something changed. His foot found a sharp rock. The beam jerked. He lost balance. The rope held his weight, but his head struck stone with a sickening thud. He swung in the tight space. The shaft became a rigid prison. He was hanging upside down, head lower than heart, a caver's dread. Blood rushed to his face. The rope pressed his ribs. He couldn't reach the knot. Held by the geometry of rock, suspended between light above and darkness below. Panic washed over him. His breath sounded distant. His hands trembled. He called for help. His friends climbed down, tried lifting, pulling, pushing at rock. Their faces showed growing, terrible fear. Time began to slow down, stretching each moment into an eternity. The air grew heavy, difficult to draw into his struggling lungs. Sweat cooled to a chill. Gravity was his enemy now. He couldn't push with his legs. A throbbing ache built in his head. His friends worked frantic energy, tools ready, but ropes tangled in the unforgiving shaft. A friend slid his shoulder in, muscles burning, but the critical knot stayed out of reach. Light flickered. A drop traveled miles through rock and landed on his lip. Tiny, monumental. It tasted of dust and metal, the flavor of the deep earth. He was part of the rock now. Hope came. They found a way to shift the main rope, to make slack and swing him free. John felt a slight lift, a small, significant release. For a brief moment, he felt better. His mind wandered to brighter things, silliness, jokes, sky, standing on his own 2 feet. But then, the upward movement stopped. The frame of hope froze. A fist-sized rock jammed the pulley. The knot slid into a rough pocket. Pressure on his chest returned, worse than before. Sleepiness crept in with lacking oxygen. Blood pooled in his head. His legs went numb. Cramps seized his back and stomach. Outside, the sun moved across the sky, indifferent. Birds sang. A warm breeze rustled leaves. One friend climbed for a signal. The other stayed close, holding light and hope. They shouted names into a vast landscape and shook the ropes, praying for a miracle. Inside John, fear softened into dream. His mother's smile, small kindnesses, first bicycle balance. When help came, they moved with practiced calm. Stretcher, stronger ropes, lever systems, new anchors, steady voices. They brought John up, slow, methodical, careful, inch by inch. Artificial light touched his face again, followed by a distant patch of sky. For a brief, heartbreaking moment, his eyes opened. He tried to smile. They set him on the grass and wrapped him warm. At the hospital, machines hummed. The long hours upside down had done deep damage. They fought through the night to give him breath, his life, but John did not wake. Friends and family held his cool hand, speaking of his laughter, his energy, his passion. They placed a photo, John on a sunny ridge, smiling broadly at the light. The lesson lives in small choices, a knot tied right, a light held for a friend, the desperate rush for help. The world is beautiful and wild, but not without risk. The smallest oversight, the greatest loss. Be careful, be prepared, and always, always come home.